organizations are doing by profit, but it was also a good reminder around kind of the impact that you can have just through small changes on making a big impact on overall food waste. And then most recently, my involvement with food waste is directly linked to my involvement with Food Recovery Network. So Food Recovery Network is the largest food recovery organization on college campuses. So we're on about 240 campuses across the United States. It's a nonprofit out of DC, and their goal is really catch waste before it gets thrown out. So if you think of all of the food that's produced on college campuses, often that gets thrown into massive dumpsters and ultimately gets transferred into landfills. I'll talk about that in a bit, but their goal is really to recover all of that. So this year, we'll recover about 1.8 million pounds of food, which then gets redeployed to be needed. Which leads me to my first question. I got $5 Starbucks gift card. Food Recovery Network is directly linked to college campuses. And so while a lot of that food gets redeployed to homeless shelters and food pantries, they've also started on the college campuses. They've started to create a safe place for college students who are food insecure. So food insecure meaning like, I don't know where I'm going to get my next meal. How many, what do you think the ratio is of college students who are food insecure? I've got a gift card for anyone who can get it right.
Can you repeat the question one more time on the ladder?
The ratio of students that are like food insecure.
10%. Each one.
60. You're close. It's like 1 in 6. So a little under 20%. But it's still really, really high. And I think it just, and it's actually higher than the total level of food insecurity. So, and these are not always people that are like below the poverty level or anything like that. It's just like you don't know where to get our next meal from. So 3 things I want to chat through today. The first is kind of why food waste matters. The second is where food waste comes from. And then the third is like how we can work together to make a difference. And would really love this group's support in generating a good list of ideas. Like I said, I have some starters, some things that I personally do, or folks in my network do, but would love to build on that list because it is a tremendous issue. So what are we talking about when we talk about food waste? I just want to establish a very common language. Food waste or food loss is food that is discarded or lost uneaten. The causes are numerous, but this is truly food that would be totally fine for consumption and just does not get eaten. Does anyone know the percent of food that gets wasted? Like what that number is? I'm not going to give you 2. I'm going to give you 2. We'll see.
Don't give me 2. Give it to whoever is
it's 40%. So 40% of everything that is produced in the United States is wasted. And it's baffling to me that if you have 1 in 6 college students who don't know where their next meal is going to come from, that we have nearly half of our food go to waste, like just gets thrown out.
40% of the United States. Do you know what percent is like in Europe?
I don't think it's as high as the U.S. I think their waste systems are a little more progressive, but I think it's still like, it might be, I think I saw that as 32%. Still pretty high. Like a lot of stuff just gets thrown out. And the first place it tends to go is to landfills, right? So food waste is the single largest kind of input into landfills. So as you look at kind of a landfill, about 8% of it is food waste. So that again is like perfectly good food that just gets thrown into a landfill. So I want to unpack that a little bit more because that's really the starting point, but that's not the only issue that's created by kind of food waste issues. So let's start with the environmental impact of that, right? So you have 8% of landfills that are food waste, and there's really three things that happen when that waste goes into landfill. The first is about it spits off toxic gases, right? So that's going to contribute to climate change and all those other things. So about 8% of greenhouse gases is a direct result of food. So that's something that we all can control, right? The second is water. So water gets lost as a part of this process. So it's about 3 times the volume of Lake Geneva as you think on an annual basis, like how much water gets lost as a result of food waste. And then the other thing that just like blows my mind is you have about 30% of kind of agricultural occupied land. So that's land that's designated to produce food. It just either sits unused or doesn't get developed as a result of it. So, yeah, so you have land that's like prime for food that never gets harvested.
It never gets harvested.
Yeah. So that's the environmental impact. The second kind of big impact is the impact on all of our pockets, right? So as you think through kind of manufacturer production process, right? Like waste is a line item. Like when I managed a P&L, I had a waste line item that was 10 to 15%, and that gets baked into the cost of every item that you buy on the shelf, right? And so if we could control that, if we could get a better handle on that, it would actually like reduce the cost of food. Obviously, reduce the cost of food means it's more affordable. That people who can afford it can get better quality if it's not as expensive. So that there's a whole ripple effect of food costs and what that does. But the thing that keeps me up at night the most is the people who don't have it. And it's just hard to wrap my head around that you're throwing away 40% of food, but you have 1 in 8 people that are food insecure. And so I talked about the 1 in 6 that are on college campuses. It's 1 in 8 in terms of total, so even more so on college campuses. I remember towards the end of the semester, I'd like live on ramen noodles, right? And because I'd go through my meal plan and I didn't want to call my parents and ask for more money. And I'm like, this is like beyond the, like, you don't even have that pack of ramen noodles that you're paying for it. So I wanted to bring this a little bit closer to home. And so we talked about kind of 1 in 8 people nationally in Cook County alone. So like Chicago, where we are, you've got almost 200,000 kids that are food insecure. And so that's a rate of about 17%, which is actually higher than the rate of overall like food insecurity, which again is also really alarming. Like how can we close things like the degree path, and how can you go to school and learn if you don't even have like anything to eat, if you don't read can't. So that also has a ripple effect. Any questions on that? So there's really 4 sources for waste, and so I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about those. And so the first is kind of the actual like where the product is grown, so the agricultural element, and that happens in a couple ways. You either have like unharvested fields, or you have what I call the harvest rejects. So like if you go to an apple orchard and there's apples on the ground, right? like oftentimes there's a decent amount of perfectly fine apples, but they're just on the ground, so they get left. Versus taking home to someone to love them and make a beautiful apple pie out of, right? The second is manufacturing. I talked a little bit about that, but that's both the processing and the storage. The third is at retail, and so that one's pretty complex. It's not just like unsaleables at a retailer, like the package gets scented and then nobody wants it, but it's also like retail assortment, right? And so our CGS team spends a good amount of time thinking through what is the right mix of items for retailers to carry, right? If you don't have the right retail assortment, you could end up in a position where you're like throwing a lot of stuff away, take code and all of that. So making sure that the retailer carries the right set of items to meet the needs of the consumer is also really important there. And then the last piece is the consumer. And so the big drivers there are perceived freshness and then just planning shortfalls. And so who has ever thrown anything away that's gotten spoiled or rotten? I think most people have. So to illustrate this a little bit more, I want to show a quick video. It's about the life of a strawberry. I'm not sure if you've seen this, but it's going to take you on a little journey with the strawberry all the way through this kind of 4-phase process that I talked about. Sorry, I'll start it over. Can you see it on the screen?
I can see it on this screen. It's just not on this one.
Okay.
So you're definitely sharing the video, and that works. And I think now you have to unshare your PowerPoint or something like that. I think for this.
It's all good. Okay.
Yeah.
So sad, right? here's a point where we say we all have to do something like who's in for doing something. Okay, cool. So what can you do? So there's a range of things that it starts with the kind of most preferred all the way to the least preferred. So the least preferred is like you throw it out and it goes to landfill. Then again, it's wasted. It doesn't get to someone who needs it. It sends off these toxic gases, all these things. So no one wants to do that. So the thing that the best place to start is actually to like prevent it from happening, right? So that's a lot of the work that Food Recovery Network does is starts at the point where it could happen and prevents it from happening from the beginning. So there will hit a point with that organization where it will be, the model will be working well if we actually have a recovery must food, right? So what happens today is if we do a recovery from a college cafeteria, we can then send that information back to Sodexo or Airmark, whoever runs that kitchen, and say like, hey, you produce 3 times the amount of chicken that you actually need. If you cut that down a bit, you could probably like save yourself some money and reduce risk, right? So it's great that it's getting to other people who need it, but it's also not great that it's happening really, right? And so the first thing is kind of stopping it from happening. And so we'll talk a lot about that. That's actually the piece that we control the most. Like in our day-to-day life, it's probably the easiest thing to impact. It's just try to prevent it from happening. So we'll share a lot of tools, and I hope we have some conversation about that. The second layer is like if you have a sense it's going to go bad, if it looks like there's 150 bananas in the kitchen at the end of the week, and you don't have time to bake up 10 batches of banana bread, then like take it to a local pantry. We've got a decent amount of like neighborhood buddies around here. Let's give everybody bananas so that someone gets those. Feed to animals is kind of third on the list. So often that waste stream will get reconverted into animal feed. Compost is actually pretty far down there, but again, it's better than going to a landfill. And then landfills is way at the bottom. So first step is actually just being aware. The personal story that I'll share with you is about every other year, Food Recovery Network as a board gets together in person. So we're all spread across the country. So about a month ago, I was in DC with the board in person, and we were at dinner, and they had served bread with dinner, and there was like a decent amount of bread like left at the dinner. And someone like started going through like with their reusable bag that they brought and packaged up the bread, and they're like, I'll bring this to the meeting tomorrow, and we can take this leftover meat to the office. And just the intention around like not wasting it was humbling to me, because honestly that's something like I miss a lot. And a good reminder that like there are small things you can do to make sure that doesn't happen, like pack up the bread and use it for the pudding or sandwiches or something else. So just being aware and mindful, I think, is a really big one. It's really about like small, consistent actions that have transformative effects. So that lone piece of broccoli that you might have left over for dinner can be saved and thrown into your smoothie in the morning for an extra source of spirulina or spirulina. Something green, cholera, or there's something green and good for you in broccoli. that could go into that morning smoothie. Or yeah. You know, really mastering the art of freezing. So if something is like nearing date code, or you have leftovers or you have food that you prepared that you feel like you're not going to be in the mood for the next day, you can always freeze it and have it at some other time. You could start a leftover challenge with your buddies. And so my husband hates leftovers. He always has. And so I've started to reinvent leftovers as I've gotten more and more into this to make sure that things just don't get wasted. So repurposing things so they don't feel like leftovers to my family, but something new and fresh. And then sometimes just have to suck it up and eat it. Again, it's much better than it going to waste. The other thing is really knowing your expiration dates. And so I think there's sometimes concern around things that are close to expiration. And so just understanding what all that terminology means. So as an example, sell by doesn't mean that date, doesn't mean that you can no longer use the product anymore. It just means it's the last day that the store ships up. And so there is typically some period of time that is built into the shelf life for that item that can be extended, that you can eat beyond that date. So if you buy a sandwich on a day and the sell by date is that date, you still have a little bit of time to eat it. Use by is typically the date the manufacturer recommends adding it. So again, there's always buffer built into those dates. And so it will probably be best if you eat it by then, but it won't be terrible if you eat it the day after the by date. Or if you're very fearful of that, and you have something that might be approaching that to someone else. And then the best if used by is really a quality reference.
Who has those dates on it, right? I mean, sometimes just some expiration. And it's that, as far as you know, that's kind of changed, right? Are they working on that?
Yeah, most have the stamp, if it's a can, a stamp on the top of the can, or some indicator. Now, OTC or medicine, tends to be heavier towards the fire. And I know less about that. I would say it's expired and you need medicine. You might not want to see it. But generally they have it usually says VIUD is the one that they tend to have the most. And even going back to my days working on brands, when you would there was this form you had to fill out for every new that would enter, and one of the requirements isn't to enter the shelf life requirements. And typically there were always 2 dates. One date is the best to buy, and the other is the full shelf life. And there's typically a pretty big gap between the two. And that was more conservative, right? So there's typically that answer your question.
On the medicine waste, so the U.S. Armed Forces is the #1 buyer of antibiotic medication, and they wanted to make sure that they weren't throwing out necessarily, so they did a gigantic study that actually said what it's saying. It didn't say that for past expiration, but long story short, basically almost everything you commonly get is safe. It just potency very quickly over time. So if you have Viking or DPAC or antibiotic, both of those last year.
I probably shouldn't take them 5 minutes. The second thing that you can do is really plan and prep. So I took a picture of this. This comes from one of my friends, but she travels with a kind of meal preparedness kit everywhere she goes. And so in there, she's got a straw, a reusable straw, a fork and spoon, a knife. She added a knife over time. And then also, like, she found napkins because she didn't want like the thick bulky things. So she uses them in her show. Just as a way to reduce impact. We have like metal forks in all of the cafes here. Use those, take the extra 2 seconds to rinse it off. That's better, even though we have recyclable forks, etc. Like metal and like that. The other thing I do to plan and prepare, and Caitlin does this as well. I put this one up here because it's local. It doesn't even use imperfect produce. So I'm a big fan. Like, so the founder of Imperfect Produce actually is he actually founded Food Recovery Network and wanted to see kind of a bigger impact beyond kind of those college campuses. But think of Imperfect Produce like a CSA delivery service. So every Monday I get an alert with a box of things that I'm going to get. I can choose organic, I can choose not organic, and I can also customize my box based on availability. And then Friday evenings I have like a box of like perfectly fine, beautiful produce that would be considered kind of the region. So like sometimes the avocados or sweet potatoes are a little small, but there's nothing wrong with them. Anything you'd add?
I've noticed that they're like, you have to use it within a few days. Like they're usually at the end of their shelf life.
Yeah.
But again, you have to just plan for that.
Yep. Which, well, we'll get to that, but planning is important, right? Another thing you can do to like really plan and be mindful is just like really organize your fridge. So try to be diligent about that. Again, it's all about these small things, but like you'll be surprised like what things are hiding in there that could make perfectly good meals. And so we do like Iron Chef at home, like probably twice a week. So we're pretty regimented about kind of meal planning. So we get what we need for probably 3 to 4 meals, and we get that amount. But then we'll do the other kind of 2 nights or 3 nights. We'll do kind of a little Iron Chef and like see what we have left and make something out of that. Again, with the intent of like not letting it go bad, especially with like the lettuce that maybe we'll see slightly or something like that. I'm really trying to maximize the use of all of that. Again, you can always donate it if you feel like it's getting close to code. And so here I wanted to show a quick video of actually an FRN recovery and how I thought it'd be a good point to kind of share what they do in action. This is a much more aggressive form of donation, but I can still get on under kind of some of the small things that we can do. Oh. This is a near neck Santa Clara.
What is it?
It's in UC Santa Clara.
painted in LA.
I hope so. Awesome. Oh, I guess it's not yet. Oh, I see what's happening. Then the last thing is really get help. And so I think there's a lot of really great resources out there to help you. It's not something that you have to like figure out on your own. And so a few of my favorites, there's through NRDC, there's a waste-free kitchen handbook. And so that is designed to really give you inspiration around how to use things that might be kind of on the verge. So if you think of it, celery, they have some great recipes and things like that to help you really get the most out of your food. There's an organization called Zero Waste Chicago. It's like a fantastic resource for kind of everything food waste related. So as an example, if you want to identify local grocery stores that support food waste, you can go there. They have a list, grocery stores, restaurants, composting services, etc. Collective resources probably has like the most expansive coverage around the city. I think there's a misnomer around composting that you have to have like a big yard and a big composting machine, and certainly like that is a way. Collective resources actually goes around and collects kind of food waste, solid waste. It's another great way to make sure that even if you live in a don't have the benefit of a composter, that you can still contribute. What are other people doing?
I don't know if you've heard of this before, but the strawberry video made me think that you noticed the woman who washed all her berries and put it back in the fridge. Mm-hmm. I heard that if you wash berries, it actually accelerates the rate that they go bad, like applying moisture to them. Have you heard of that?
I haven't heard that, but I buy it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But I heard that, and I actually tried it out.
Yeah.
I tried it out, and they do last longer.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's the thing. I mean, we buy strawberries. I just saw a cart go bad last week. Maybe it's like something we can do immediately is communicating out to the office. Selectively wash your berries.
Yeah, like rinse them and eat them.
But then another thing is you mentioned like donating food when you recognize your food stuff. Are there any local organizations where we can do that? Like I recognize something in my fridge is about to go bad, I can run somewhere.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking, let me look into it, but I'd love to put even like a couple boxes here, like, and I'm happy to volunteer to be the collector. Yeah, I can either get it to our local chapter, we have a chapter at UIC in Loyola, and they've had it as part of their recovery network. Otherwise, I can just bring it to a local pantry. So I will commit to adding like 2 donation boxes, at least at the offices here that we can make it easy for everyone here, and I can take them once every week or a couple of weeks. We'll just see how much we can spend.
You know, the donation rules are, because like when I became vegetarian a little over a year ago, and I had a freezer full of like meat and fish and chicken, and a lot of it, and I wanted to donate, and I called around local places, and they all told me the same thing, like they legally can't accept still sealed packages of like frozen meat products.
Yeah, it depends on the source and where they're coming from, and so what we found is like the major like filters, like so like Greater Chicago Depository or Feed in America tends to be more stringent in their practices than like some of the local shelters. And so let me get some guidelines from our executive director, and I know very interesting things. Like there's this company that is now taking cakes that are about to expire and using the sugar from the frosting and like the cakes to then be put into bars. Yeah, I'm good. So I just love to hear from everyone else. What inspiration you get from each other?
I keep this because like the strawberry commercial that buys this great stuff and then somehow it gets pushed back to your refrigerator. So I take this stuff in front of my refrigerator to make sure that I know what's back there. Like so when I use it, I check it out.
That's so smart.
And so I see literally right on the front of my refrigerator what I have. And I know somebody should use up this week, but I have a lot of stuff. So I know, hey, I got to figure out I have these things used by the end of the week because they're not crossed off. They're still in my refrigerator. So whether they got put underneath the push back or whatever, that's a really good way for me to know.
Well, and then you kind of factor those into your meal planning.
Yeah. I have a question for everybody here. So Julian and I talked about this a while ago. We're like, I don't know. What would you guys think of us trying compost service work? I think it would work. People would do it, right? There are companies that come in with you have like bin, put all the things that we composted, so like all of our scraps from our fresh food stuff, you put the peels, whatever, into this compost bin, and then they come, I think, like once a week and take that away. So that's trying to keep more things, out of garbage. Do you think people do that here? I've had some people say that they would, but what do you guys think? I mean, the hard thing is that right now, like, wrong things end up in recycling. To me, that's not hard, but it happens every single day. So I'm just like, I don't know if people understand composting, but I think you just keep educating them. They will, right?
Another talk like this about composting, and then I know this doesn't work all the time, but have like a huge sign next to composting things that go in here. Only these things.
And there's so many media things that we do.
Right? All the banana peels.
Yeah.
Yeah, coffee grounds. I mean, we'll have to think about it more, but I would love to do that here. I know, I live in Evanston and they just started a program saying that if any house or in my case, I live in a condo building, has a yard waste bin, they now allow us to put compost into our yard waste bin. So you don't have to have a place to compost. So it's a new program they just started to see how much staying out of the landfills, and then maybe telling other cities about, hey, this works. It's only 8 months out of the year that they'll come and do that, but that's the next.
Well, I'll post I'm going to be posting sometime this fall, so we'll do 6. But the bleeding is when you go to like a farm, you actually collect really kind of harvest rejects and redeploy them. So I'll be sure to share these with everyone. I'd love to have folks join if you're interested in learning more. And of course, if you want to talk about FRN and how you might get involved locally, I'm happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to do a little raffle thing. Did everyone fill out a raffle ticket? Yes? Let's call the raffle ticket. Okay. Actually, Randy or Jenna online if they get called. So part of the raffle is that we would love for you guys to think of something that you could do in October, since it's coming up. One thing that you think you could do to help with either food waste or kind of like zero waste in general. So I know that Perteet heavily focused on food waste, which is like a really huge part of it. But one of the other things too is like literally like when you go home today, look at what you're doing in your kitchen, or like this weekend, right? You know, you go to the store, you buy something, it's in a package, it's in another package. You know, are you recycling it? You know, how much of it are you actually, you know, not using that you end up having all these different things and then a, you know, a full garbage can, right? One of the things that I felt bad about a couple weeks ago when I went grocery shopping is that, okay, if I go to Trader Joe's, they have compostable bags for produce, but all the other places don't. And every time I'm buying vegetables, I'm just ripping it open, I'm not saving, and I'm throwing it out. And then these things take hundreds of years, you know, to decompose in the landfills. So that thought kind of stirred what we have for the raffle. These are like nice reusable bags that are washable. They come on like a little string, and you can bring them with you to the store and use those to fill up your put your vegetables in them. So that way, you know, you can even use it for things like nuts or other bulk products. So I'm really excited about them. I got so excited that I actually bought my own. It's for a pack of 12, it's $10 on Amazon. So it's really affordable, and you're helping save the earth. So, okay, without further ado, so I just come up here. What we're gonna do is I call your name. You let us know one thing that you plan to do in October, and then you can pick a bag. There's 3 different sizes. So, okay. This doesn't have a name. 619716. Did anyone not put their name on their ticket? 619716. It should say on your number. No. Okay, let's put that to the side.
Potentially. I didn't put a blank one in there, but I don't think I touched my opposite.
Did you write your name on it?
Yeah.
You did write your name on it?
Yes, I did.
Oh, because this doesn't have a name on it, so.
Unless someone grabbed
We'll probably still have a chance to go. Is this Elise? Elise?
Alice.
Oh, sorry, it looks like a Z. Alice. Elise. That's her
Oh,
nickname, by the way.
What do I plan to do? I feel like a good thing for me to do is to always go for the fresh snack versus the long-lasting snack. So eating that first, because I know it's going to go bad, and usually it tends to be a healthier option anyways, is kind of.
Yay! Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. I know.
Elliot?
Hey, yeah, I think the big one for me is planning out what I'm going to cook / eat and not overbuying stuff. So notice that when I go to Costco, the people I buy a lot because it's there for me. It's good, but it's usually way too much for what I need.
Yeah, it's especially people at Costco, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead and pick the size, whatever bag you like. Zach.
The big one for me, because I already don't use like the bags for produce. I have like a cart that I bring stuff in, and we're pretty good about planning meals mostly because I have food allergies. But the thing that we waste, that creates the most garbage for us and food waste are freezer meals because they're never the right size and they always have like 6 times the wrapping on them.
Right.
So reducing, and a lot of them are things that like we make fresh versions of, but to be honest, I'm lazy about cooking it. So that's, yeah.
Awesome. That's a good thing to consider too. So yeah, pick a bag for yourself. Mark.
Right, so for me, the biggest thing would be eating stuff that's already in the fridge. Right? Maybe creating a board or something like Susan was saying, but just making sure that you're digging around and using the stuff that maybe is tucked away in the back, or that half an onion that was in there before it started to become a science experiment. And just using stuff. Be more conscious of using before it goes bad.
Conscious. Mindful. Awesome. Thank you.
On onion point, people think that onions can't be stored safely in the fridge. That
Awesome. Thank you. Look at that. Scott.
I think having a plan when you go to the grocery store for what you're not buying a bunch of random things that can't consistent.
You typically make like healthier choices too, so it's like a win-win.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Shmira.
Of course, it was probably a little bit more, but I was thinking to see that this is now online food, but I waste a lot of paper towels in my kitchen. And so even just keeping like a dry towel out, I just noticed that this week it's funny that we're having this conversation, but to reduce the paper towel.
Yeah, that's a big one. I'm with you on that. Thank you for sharing. Oops. Kylie.
Probably leveraging my freezer more, like recognizing when something's going to go bad, you can freeze it and use it down the line.
Awesome. Thank you. Emily.
I actually really like what you're talking about.
And metal straws. Yeah. Especially now that so many of the restaurants are transitioning to those biodegradable straws. It's like I don't think they hold liquid very well, so you might as well bring them in and have a better experience.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Randy. So Randy's on the computer. Randy, do you want to unmute yourself and chat?
Hello?
Hey.
Hey, I'm trying to learn how to ferment some food scraps that I would usually go to waste. I'm inspired actually by Jenna and her partner to learn how to ferment.
That's great. Oh, so Randy was saying that she's inspired to, sorry, what was the word for food scraps?
I'm trying to ferment and like make sauerkraut and whatnot.
So fermenting food scraps.
And then what do you do with the fermented byproduct of that?
I mean, you eat it. It's just like the ends of onions or cabbage that's like starting to wilt. So, it tastes pretty good. I don't know.
All right. So Randy, we will put a bag on your desk. Do you want small, medium, or large?
Large.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, next up is Amanda. Hi. Awesome, thank you. Oh, I've got another one with no name on it. 619703. Yay.
It's gonna tell more people to sign up for a perfect food.
Awesome. That's a good one. Another one is ugly.
Caitlin, I'll give you a code if you need it.
Awesome. You can share that with people too.
Yeah.
Okay, Amy.
Piggybacking off the perfect for you, since I get that, sometimes they'll have weeks where I know that I'm going out to dinner and I'm only going to be eating at home like 3 days. So if I have all this produce, maybe make an effort to have friends over and make a big meal, then it's an excuse to your friends and eat them.
I think your point around the routine is really interesting, or just like some of it's like at the end,
Right.
but it's always like the green stuff. Where it's like I should probably just plan that like Friday night we have salad and use it right away.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And then Jenna. Jenna, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Cool. So I also do pickle and fermentation. We find that it's good for long-term storage solutions, but we freeze our dinner extras to eat at a later date, eating the oldest first, and we compost all of our food scraps for our garden.
Awesome. Very cool. Cool, thank you for sharing. What size bag do you want? Small, medium, or large?
I'll take large.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jenna, if you could email your shipping address over to vibrancy360@spins.com, and we'll make sure it gets out to you.
Sure.
Thank you. Does anyone else? So Susan didn't fill out a raffle ticket.
I have.
Okay, but feel free to take one for yourself. If you're just joining, would you like to maybe say something about zero food waste? And the question was like, what do you plan to do in October? One thing for zero food or just waste in general.
Big question. I have started thinking more when I go to the grocery store about like what meat looks like and what meals I'm giving out to try to limit. And I think also living like close to a grocery store, I think more frequent trips, you're gonna eat that like, in the next 2 days rather than like buying a week and kind of letting your mind wander and you get a meal rush.
Awesome. Thank you. So great.
It's easier for like when you put fruit in instead of using plastic cups.
Exactly. Yep. So they're mesh, they're reusable, they're breathable. So yeah.
My apartment actually only has a mini fridge. I don't have a full fridge. And so, yeah, and it actually works really well for me. But that means when I go to the grocery store, I only buy enough that will fit within the fridge. And so I've not wasted food for a long time. So that's like when you go to the grocery store, like imagine you have a food fridge and you're trying to like fill that. Also, I've been on vacation a lot on the weekend, so I've always just like think in my mind, like, okay, we're going to be eating at this day, we're going to like out of town thing. And my freezer is like this big, so like I can do my fresh stuff too. So
That's interesting. Cool. Well, thank you all for joining. We really appreciate it. I got this really cool idea, and I'll survey you guys on it later, but like while we were talking, like how cool would it be if Spins offices had an initiative for zero food waste or zero waste in general? And we kind of started like a movement and like talked about little things that we do, and then that's when we can kind of like donate our fruits and stuff like that, right? As part of it, and say this is what we do in the office, this is how we're mindful about it, and try to make a big splash in our community and share what we do to try to convince our show other people that it is possible.
Yeah, you can get like Food Recovery Network verified.
That's
And
awesome. I need to talk to you about that too because I tried doing that a few months ago, but it didn't work out. So.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for those on the phone. Oh, no problem.
So I was like, oh, Perteet. I'm like, I know something to like fairly take it. We were supposed to have limitless today, so I was like,
No, it's totally fine. I hope it was helpful.
I also talked with like ideas for green, and then we have like a way people can put recipes and ideas out on the 360 website.
Yeah.
So then it can include the link. It would all be on the website. You know, people can post recipes, people can post different ideas and stuff, and they're working on that. It's not done yet, but
I know. I feel like I've been traveling on the Vibrancy meetings, but
that's. I mean, no, I never really had it on the internet. When we certain people were allowed to add to it, we need a place where all speakers can go add stuff in there. Maybe we have something regulating it, but make it like a community, like a Facebook page. Always recipes and all that kind of stuff. So I talked to Randy about the idea of maybe starting here and getting some tests, and then eventually moving it out to do on a so maybe when we get that going, probably in October, maybe we'll have stuff there as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, for Halloween, I tapped these guys to see, and they're like, well, what do we need? What do we need?
Oh, for the Halloween party? Yeah, we don't. I don't remember if I changed, so we. Yeah. Okay, so look for the events. But yeah, we'll need helpers for that because we're gonna do the medium one with the apple bar. Cool. Were you people who did the apple bar?
No, because I always take Halloween off.
Oh,
They do a
that's
big
right.
thing at my kids' school.
Yeah.
So,
But even maybe before to help, I don't know, help think through, especially if you can kind of maybe change up the costume.
yeah.
That's part of it, and the other part is to have the apple bar. Obviously, the layout, people that cut up the apples. Set up
I think they're really nice.
Cool. Yeah, the hardest part is cutting the apples up. I remember doing that. Like,
Oh, yeah. That's hilarious.
keep going.
I'm going to steal
But yeah, we want to probably.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that when they put this together, that some of the producers were cultures, and that they've taken that kind of away from them because now they turn it into a business.
So I don't think that's true, but the source of that rumor could be that the founder of Ugly Produce is the founder of Food Recovery Network.
Okay.
Food Recovery Network does college recovery and then redeploys it to homeless shelters. And so I could see how that, like, yeah, that's what I assume.
Do you think Ugly Produce is a good product?
Yeah, we do it. I mean, it would probably not be the produce that I like pick up at Whole Foods, right? It was really like a strong whatever, but it's perfectly, everything's perfectly fine. Yeah. The only thing I've been a little underwhelmed with is like the lettuce.
Like unsure, yeah, what's ugly about lettuce?
Well, sometimes it's a little wilted, so you end up like having to pull off the outer leaves. Like that's the one thing you have to use pretty quickly, is like the green. But you can also customize your boxes. If I like, so like I get only organic, and then I mean I had a, like you could take the lettuce off. You know, if you know that about. Like I got carrots, zucchini, eggplant, and like all that stuff is perfectly fine. And it's only like $20. Yeah. So I spend that in a week. I mean, we usually spend time with the family.
I'm by myself. So
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I had a partner.
Yeah.
My partner lives with me, then maybe.
And I don't know if they have like smaller boxes. I'm not sure if the box is
It might not be worth it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll split it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
On that Smucker as well. Sorry, no.
Yeah.
And that was when you were talking about all the things that your team does. That was kind of the first time I'd ever heard that.
Yeah.
Like all the things, that, the studies and things that you guys can do.
Yeah.
I know Dave has like previously done like this silly trademark thing, like what's up with, have like a meeting of like you guys presenting on what you do.
Yeah.
Would that be something? Because a lot of what I don't think about is even like upsell for us is like our clients have an issue. Like I wouldn't know all the things that you guys do.
Yeah.
So knowing it
for sure.
beforehand.
No, I think we'd be happy, especially like if you change, we'd be happy to like
Yeah.
do that.
Okay.
Yeah, let us know.
All right.
Anytime.
Might start email saying
Yeah, anytime. We're happy to do that.
a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah. Really?
Wait, before you guys go, can I take you to the other holding your bags up? Like, to show, sorry, everyone is gonna pick one that's like a little better. 1, 2. Thank you so much. Okay, do I have your permission to put you in the newsletter?
No.
Oh, this is no. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Yeah. I'll send it to you.
We'll be in touch. I'll be in touch with you about someone from, or either I reached out to them or they reached out to me. I think I reached out to them from that, right?
Yeah.
Recovery Network.
Yeah.
And she mentioned to you that you're on the board and that you're wonderful and all that stuff. And we went back and forth a couple times, and so I was like, if we have big events, that's especially when we're like, we left for weekends
Yeah.
away. So she's like, no, we should have, we partner with people who usually have something every week. And I don't know where it happened from that, and I don't have my old email now. So I feel like we could maybe resurrect that and kind of see, can we like figure something out, or we'll work together to find somewhere we can
I think it's like the right thing to do,
Someone
and it
can
would
come
be
pick it up.
like a good thing for us to do.
That's the tough part, is that people don't have the time
Yeah.
to drop it off.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I would
and I'm not
raise
here on
my
my
hand.
either.
I would raise my hand to do that with you first. Yep. No problem. Hey, how are you? Good. Hey, is this real vending machine? Is this real? Oh wow, that's cool. That's cool. Good, how are you? Just looking at this like fancy machine here.
The only one's the one sample. It's all gone basically, or kind of done. But what consumers can do is if they want the machine, they answer a couple survey questions for the brands. We're not going to make you do it. But like they can enter information. We don't recommend a brand do this much because it's too long of an experience. But it's the part. So a consumer